All right, and now we move to the main event of the evening and a pure, unadulterated, personified firefight in the UFC's featherweight division. You have a battle between top 10 ranked contenders and the number 4 ranked Kelvin Kattar coming into the fight with a record of 23 victories and 5 defeats, going up against the number 7 ranked Josh Emmett, who comes into the fight with a phenomenal record of 17 victories and 2 defeats. Man, what a great fight this is, and what a great main event we're getting for this fight night. The main event this weekend and then next weekend with Mateus Gamrot and Arman Tsarukyan. Great main events back to back. Great contender fights, good competitive fights in the divisions. I'm super excited for this main event. Now, I've talked about Kelvin Kattar multiple times on this podcast. That's my boy. Kelvin Kattar's always been my boy. He's been one of my favorite fighters in the UFC before he even was ranked, before he even got into those rankings. I was always on Kelvin Kattar. Got to see him knock out Ricardo Lamas live at UFC 238 at the United Center. I rode with him pretty heavy to beat Max Holloway. That one obviously didn't go our way, but he came back and looked probably the best he's ever looked against Giga Chikadze. Just a complete, well-rounded, all-around mixed martial arts performance. The wrestling, the defense, the counter ability, the counter uppercuts, the elbows to close the distance, the 1-2s, the 1-2 slip backs, shoulder roll into the right uppercut. I mean, he looked the best he's ever looked, and I think we got an evolved version of Kelvin Kattar after that Max Holloway loss. And you look at the side of Josh Emmett, number 7 in the UFC's featherweight division. He's scored at least one knockdown in every single one of his UFC fights in his career so far. Knockdown against Dan Ige, knockdowns against, like I said, a knockdown in every one of his fights. So this guy, he may not have the best volume. He may not have the best, ability to put combinations together. But if this guy closes that distance and lands that right hand over the top, he can put out just about anybody. That straight right, that overhand right, that switch stance straight left as he cuts you off if you're an orthodox like he did against Shane Burgos. If he lands on your chin with his power and his speed, he can put anybody out. And Kelvin Kattar's going to have to look out over that jab for that overhand right of Josh Emmett. Because I know Kelvin Kattar's got a chin. I know he can take some shots. But, man, if he gets cracked on the chin by Josh Emmett, it could be over before it even gets started. And that's definitely something that Kelvin Kattar's going to have to look out for. Now, Josh Emmett is a decorated championship wrestler. He's got a highly decorated wrestling background. But we never see him use it. He doesn't shoot takedowns in the UFC. He really doesn't. I think he shot maybe 1 or 2 takedowns in his entire career. He's not looking to shoot takedowns. That's just not who he is. And I don't necessarily think he's going to try to use his wrestling against Kelvin either, because Kelvin is going to entertain that toe-to-toe boxing match. But if Kelvin plays it too reckless and goes toe-to-toe with Emmett for too long, man, Emmett's speed with that right hand, it could put Kelvin out. I know Kelvin's got a chin. I know he's never been knocked out. I know he got hurt by Max Holloway, took all that damage. But Emmett's a different breed, man. If Emmett catches Kelvin over the jab with that overhand right, the fight could be over extremely quickly. I don't think people understand. To get a knockdown in every one of your UFC fights, which in total comes out to about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's got 10 fights in the UFC, scored at least one knockdown in every single one. Knocked down Shane Burgos, I believe, twice in their fight. Knocked down Jeremy Stevens. The guy puts you on ice. He doesn't finish everybody, but he's got the power to knock out just about anybody. Even the Michael Johnson fight. Michael Johnson was on his way to winning that decision on the judges' scorecards. He looked great at 45. Emmett gets to the outside of that lead right foot with that feint left hook. Boom! Comes over the top. Beautiful shot. Lands right on the chin of Michael Johnson. Puts him out cold. He's got power for a full 15 minutes. Now, the question is, this is a main event. Does he have power for a full 25-minute fight? I think he still will carry the power, but I don't think against a guy like Kelvin, who's got the volume, got the counter ability, and got the clean, crisp boxing, probably the best boxing, one of the best boxers in the UFC, one of the best and most clean boxers in that featherweight division. Against a guy like that, I don't think that power is going to really have a place in the 4th and 5th round, but he's still going to have it. And if he lands on the chin of Kelvin, he can definitely hurt him and put him out. The problem with this fight, though, is the volume. But let's talk about the stats really quick before we go into like the full breakdown. We'll talk about the stats. Kelvin is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch height advantage. 5'11" for Kelvin Kattar, 5'6" for Josh Emmett, 72-inch reach for Kelvin, 70-inch reach for Emmett. Half-inch leg reach advantage for Kelvin. I don't really think that's going to play much of a factor, but that 2-inch reach advantage, if he can keep Emmett behind that jab, then that can definitely play a factor and be the story of the fight. Win percentages for both guys, 48% of the wins coming by way of knockout for Kelvin Kattar, 9% by submission and 43% by decision. For Emmett, 35% of the wins coming by way of KO, 12% by submission and 53% by decision. Like I said, Emmett's got power. He can hurt just about anyone. He's knocked down a lot of guys, but he doesn't finish everybody. Only a 35% knockout victory rate over 10 fights in the UFC. He doesn't knock out everybody, but he does hurt them and drop them. He just sometimes can't find the power to put him out. A beautiful right hand into the left hook against Ricardo Lamas. A beautiful overhand right against Michael Johnson. Dropped Dan Ige with an overhand right, or knocked out Mirsad Bektic, dropped him with a jab. Like, he's got power, but he doesn't put away everybody. And I don't think that a guy as durable and, long-lasting as Kelvin Kattar, I don't think that knockout's really going to be there much for Emmett in this fight. He does have the power. He probably will hurt him. He might drop him, but I don't necessarily think he's got the ability to get Kelvin out of there. And I don't think he's going to fall back on the wrestling. This would be a smart fight to do so, but he doesn't use it. He's a striker. He sits on the outside. He plays with the fakes and feints, plays with the hands, and looks for an opportunity to get that outside foot if you're southpaw, or get that angle if you're an orthodox, and land the overhand right, land the straight right down the middle, land the switch stance straight left like he did against Burgos. He looks for an opportunity to land that power. He plays around, loses the round, boom, finds a way to land that power. That's how Emmett fights. When you look at average fight time, you got 14 minutes and 40 seconds for Kelvin to 11 minutes and 59 seconds for Emmett. And then, like I said, Kelvin's got more knockouts and finishes than Josh Emmett does. Almost a 50% knockout win rate for Kelvin to a 35% knockout win rate for Emmett. He's got more knockdowns, though. Like I said, he puts somebody down. 1.38 knockdowns per 15-minute fight for Emmett to 0.51 knockdowns for Kelvin Kattar. Significant strikes landed per minute, 5.19 on the side of Kattar to 4.28 for Emmett. 41% significant strike accuracy for Kelvin to a 39% for Josh Emmett, so very close. Strikes absorbed per minute, Kelvin takes more shots, 7.64 to 4.1 for Josh Emmett. I feel like those absorbed per minute strikes, I feel like that was heavily skewed by that Holloway fight because he took like 450, 500 shots to the head. Still made it out, still got through the 5 rounds, but I feel like those stats were heavily upped because of that fight. And man, that fight was crazy. Defense overall, Emmett has the better defense. 62% striking defense for Emmett to 52% defense for Kelvin Kattar. Grappling, 1.25 takedowns per 15-minute fight for Josh Emmett, 0.51 for Kelvin. Takedown accuracy, 29% for Kattar to 47% for Emmett. Takedown defense, though, almost a 90% takedown defense for Kelvin Kattar compared to 58% takedown defense for Emmett. 0.1 submissions per 15-minute fight on the side of Kelvin to 0.13 for the side of Josh Emmett. I honestly think that this is going to be a fight where after the first round and a half, Kelvin's going to take over and take over big. The jab of Kelvin is going to be the key against a guy like Emmett, but he's going to have to throw it a little bit different from other fights because I do think Kelvin has the crisper technique. I do think there's way less windup with Kelvin. We know that. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC. The combination, the volume striking, 3-4 punch combos, the counter ability, being able to step back, time that rear uppercut like he did against Burgos, step back, boom, catch him coming in like he did against Zabit, like he did against I keep wanting to say Kelvin Kattar, but I'm not. Giga Chikadze, against Shane Burgos, against Sabit. He always times you stepping in with that rear uppercut. 1, 2, boom, boom. Fade back, right uppercut. Fade back, right uppercut, straight right, left hook. 1, 2. He's got the ability to put the combinations together. The thing that he has to do in this fight, I think that's going to make a big difference, is he's going to have to throw the 2-1 instead of the 1-2, or feint the 2, then throw the 1, then throw the 1-1-2. Because if you can use those feints to set up the jab, pop the jab, boom, jab, feint, boom, feint, left hook, feint, jab, left hook, right hand. That little pause, that little stutter in those combinations is where Josh Emmett is going to freeze or overcommit with the right hand, and then on the pullback, get countered with a left hook, get countered with the 3-2. I could see Emmett overcommitting on a right hand, Kelvin briefly stepping back, then stepping into range and landing the 3-2 like he did against Lamas and hurting Emmett and putting him out. I think Kelvin's got the ability to close the show here against Emmett, but he's going to have to throw the 2-1 and not the jab. You can't fight. He's going to have to fight behind the jab for the entirety of this fight against Emmett, but he can't get predictable with the timing because all Emmett needs to do is time it, slip inside the jab, and come over the top with the overhand right. That's going to be the weapon for Josh Emmett. Time the jab, come over the top, land the right hand. As he throws the jab, parry it with the rear hand, and then switch, split cross with the straight left down the middle, get off on the outside, right hook, straight left. The switch straight left and the overhand right over the jab of Kelvin are going to be the weapons for Josh Emmett in this fight. But I don't think he's going to have the avenue to get to where he needs to be, and I think Kelvin's going to be piecing him up all along the way. I think, like I said, the 2-1, not the 1-2, is going to be what I think Kelvin employs here. Jab, feint the jab, cross, jab, 2-1-1, feint the cross, boom, pop the jab, 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 cross, 2-3, 2-1. Mixing it up with the cross before the jab or the feint before the jab, mixing up the timing is going to carry Kelvin very far in this fight, and I don't think that Josh Emmett can last for 25 minutes against a guy with the volume, pace, pressure, and clean technique of a Kelvin Kattar. So overall, my pick, I'm going to go with Kelvin Kattar to get the finish here over Josh Emmett. I think he's going to get a I'm going to go with a third round TKO victory for Kelvin Kattar. You know what? Switch it. I'm going to go fourth round. We're going to go fourth round. A fourth round TKO victory for Kelvin Kattar over Josh Emmett. I think the volume, I think the counter ability, mixing up the timing with the jab and then following up with the right hand, landing the left hook as Emmett overcommits on the right hand. That's actually going to be what I think the finish is. As Emmett throws the right hand, I think we're going to see Kelvin step off on an angle, counter with the 3 as a measurement, and then come down the center with the right hand, drop Emmett, jump on him, and get the TKO. So my pick is Kelvin Kattar, the number 4 ranked featherweight in the division, to defeat the number 7 ranked Josh Emmett via a fourth round TKO victory. And when you're looking at the betting line, I mean, Kelvin's sitting at around a minus 225, 235 favorite to a plus 185, plus 190 for Emmett. I think the line is right here. I think it could be a little bit closer, but I definitely see why they lined it the way that they did. I think Kelvin's a lock. We talked about Dawkins being a lock earlier on in the card. I think Kelvin's the other lock on the card, man. I think pairing Dawkins and Kattar in a 2-fighter parlay is the best play for the card, and then maybe locking up a parlay with Kelvin to win by knockout, and then with Kyle Dawkins, and then maybe an Adrian Yanez by decision. I think Yanez by decision, Kattar by KO, and a Kyle Dawkins win is another good parlay. I think Dawkins by decision, Kattar by KO. I mean, you can play with the props in these fights, but I definitely think Kelvin is your main lock for the card, along with Kyle Dawkins, who opens up the card for us. All right, that's going to be it for this episode of the Touch 'Em Up podcast for in my UFC Austin preview predictions and analysis. This podcast is available anywhere you get your audio podcast. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, and many, many more. This episode will be up on YouTube with the edits, uploaded as individual fight predictions and most likely a full fight card prediction breakdown video. But get this out to anybody you know who's a fan of mixed martial arts and professional wrestling. Anybody you know who watches the UFC, whether it's casual or hardcore fan. Anybody you know who's trying to get into MMA. Point them to Double M and the Touch 'Em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody, and enjoy the fights this weekend.